Have you ever gotten into a spot in your life where you looked back and thanked God for where He's taking you? You realize that He'd been preparing you for this for a long time. For example, remember the story of Moses? He was born at a time when the Pharaohs wanted all the baby boys killed. Moses was hidden in a basket in the bushes by his parents and watched over by his older sister. He was discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter, and she had compassion on the infant, and rather than having him killed as her father instructed, asked Moses' mother to raise him to the age of weaning. Then Moses was handed over to Pharaoh's daughter and lived in the palace as though he were the grandson of the Pharaoh. At about the age of 40, Moses killed an Egyptian for beating up an Israelite and fled for his life into the wilderness where he lived in hiding. 40 years later, God called him to deliver the Israelites from Egypt. For 40 years, from the borders of Egypt to the border of the Promised Land, Moses led the people of God. He was God's man for the task. Think about that for a moment. The age of weaning at this time was about 2 or 3 years. That means for the first 3 years of Moses' life, during the most developmental period of his life, he was living with his mom and dad and being taught the ways of Jehovah God. Moses had no idea that God was preparing him at that time spiritually for the task ahead. For the next 40 years or so, Moses lived in the house of the Pharaoh. During this time, he didn't know he was being taught leadership skills and how to govern society. Then Moses killed the Egyptian and fled into the wilderness. There he met his wife and took the life of a shepherd. During the next 40 years, Moses was taught humility, how to exist in the wilderness, and the importance of family. When it came time for Moses to rescue the Israelites, he was about 80 years old. Those 80 years taught him about Jehovah God, leadership, family, and social relationships. Are you in a time of waiting right now? Are you trying to figure out what God wants? Remember Moses. While you're waiting, God is working. Learn what you can now so you'll be prepared for what He has for you. Hey, thanks for listening. Please like, follow, and share. We'll talk to you next time.